This episode is brought to you by Startup Edition, a gathering of accomplished founders, hackers, and designers sharing their knowledge and experience building a startup. Visit startupedition.com and subscribe for weekly wisdom. We all have big ideas, but very few of us ever put in the effort to make them become a reality. This is a video series where I interview inspirational people who are trying to do just that. This is Reality Makers. All right, hi everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of Reality Makers. I'm Corey Gwynn, and I'm here with Joel Gascoigne. Joel, as everybody's probably already knows, he's the co-founder and CEO of Buffer, which is a pretty awesome service and tool. It allows you to post your favorite links and self-post on all your social media and schedule those when you see fit. It's actually a really awesome product because you use it and you're like, why hadn't somebody done this before? So that's when you know it's a pretty cool product. And Joel also writes on his blog, joel.is. He provides a very honest and transparent perspective on startups, life, learning, and just overall happiness. So Joel, it's great to have you here. I'm super excited to talk with you.
Awesome, yeah. Thanks so much for having me on the show, Corey.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Why don't you tell me a little bit real quick about just who you are, just briefly, and what you're working on these days at Buffer?
Yeah, so we've been going with Buffer now 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, and kind of a bit of background about me. Before that, I first started kind of coding and playing around with websites and things when I was about 12, 13 years old. And I think my kind of path to doing a startup is that I quickly discovered that, so I was making websites just for fun, and then quickly discovered that other people needed websites, so I started making websites for people and charged for that. And then I was like, wow, this is something that was a hobby, and now I can make money from that.
When was this, like time frame wise?
So I started kind of coding things when I was 12, 13, and then when I was 15, I made money on the first website. So I did my first kind of commercial website, and so yeah, that would be that would be like 2002, like something around that kind of time. Yeah, I'm 26 now, so and so then I think after that, I kept doing that for a while. I got really into like the kind of freelance web design kind of space, that area, and did some like contracting, and I also went through university, so I did computer science in the UK at Warwick University. And I think just during that time, I kept building websites for other people, and I kept having my own like little side projects going on all the time as well. And I quickly discovered that I really wanted to kind of make that leap from being tied to the hourly wage to kind of building a product that would, not have that limitation.
Right.
And that was during university that I discovered that I had a few like school projects that I did with other people, and that's kind of where I got hooked. And then and then I had a few kind of failed attempts at trying to build a product in that kind of that would, where I could like realize that goal. And then I guess with Buffer, finally managed to build something that is useful enough that people are paying for it, and we've kind of built up the business that way. And so we were like fully bootstrapped for the first 8 months, and being from the UK, that was really important because it's just really hard to get funding for an idea, especially like to get funding earlier, like at the idea stage, is really difficult. But yeah, in terms of where we are now, so we did a small seed round, $450,000. That was at the end of 2011. We're kind of coming up to like a couple of years after that now, but we're not really looking to fundraise further. The revenue is really strong, so we're really open about everything, so I can share like all the numbers and things.
That's one thing I want to talk about here too, is how transparent you are yourself with everything and why you do that.
I mean, a key reason is that I really feel like if I come and talk, with you or whether it's an interview or whether it's in person, I really feel like there's just so much more value I can provide and help people by sharing those numbers, like to share the traction, users and revenue we had, when we got into AngelPad, which is the accelerator that we went through, and the numbers we were able to get in with, and then the numbers we were able to raise a seed round with, and where we are now is like, I feel like that can help people so much, and it's normally not shared. So
yeah,
and I think there's a few different reasons. It's definitely helped me in so many ways, and
it makes you honest, I suppose, and you learn yourself by being so
Exactly, yeah. You kind of have to face those facts and have that out there, and that I think is always like helpful. I think it helps yourself, like you say, yeah.
Yeah. So why do you think you became an entrepreneur? You kind of touched on, you had some of these ideas. A lot of us, like myself, we work on these projects on the side, and it's hard sometimes to really like find your first customer, for example. And what I think is pretty neat is you failed twice, it sounds like, prior to that. So had you invested full time into these ideas? Like, how did you manage to really kind of get going?
Yeah, it's a good one. I think like going way back, I think there's been a few things I did like early on where looking back, I didn't realize at the time, but looking back, I guess they were like kind of entrepreneurial. So like way back in like middle school or high school, I did so I used to play the Game Boy and I used to play Pokemon.
Awesome.
And I found that like there's the Pokemon character at the very end of the game that you have to like go through the whole game to get it, and it's the best one. And so when people are like fighting with each other and they like connect the Game Boys together, that would be the one that you would want to have. So I went through the whole game and like I got that character, and then I found like there was a cheat cartridge like that you could put in the Game Boy that I bought, and I could clone that Pokemon. So I remember I basically cloned it and then started like charging people to get to, so I would transfer that Pokemon for them. So that was pretty fun. And then I think, I mean, there's been a few different things, even like at 15, like making money on my first website. That was just really exciting. And I think...
What was the exciting part of it, though?
I think it was kind of that I made it all happen myself. It was like, really controlling my destiny. And also, it was something that I really found so fun. I think that's where, once I did that, then I think I couldn't really go the normal like career path and get a regular job, because I was just so hooked on that. I was like this is actually possible. Like you can make money doing something that you really enjoy. And so then I kind of I didn't let go of that.
Yeah, very cool. So how did you go about getting your first customer then? Like, I mean, Buffer's kind of one of the, like I said earlier, it's one of those things you use it and you're like, yes, I will use this, I'll pay for this. But even then, a lot of people have great ideas, and just getting somebody to talk about it, to share it, to use it is not easy, and Buffer being a social sharing thing, obviously that helps a lot in and of itself.
Yeah.
But how did you go about that? Like, you had a couple of these ideas, you have the entrepreneurial spirit, but how do you make it come to life?
That's a really good question. Let me circle back a little bit to kind of explain, because I think the way I started Buffer helped in a lot of ways to be able to get the first customer. But the reason I started in that way is because of like one of the key failures. So right out of when I graduated from university, I'd done like a couple of school projects, and I was hooked on the idea of building a product and doing a startup. So that's basically what I did right after university. I worked part-time just as a contractor, building websites and web applications for people. And then I did a startup for like pretty much the whole of the rest of my time. And I did it full-time at times. So sometimes I would like work and save up my funds and then quit and not have any clients for a while and just work full-time for a number of months and to really try and make it work. But yeah, the first idea, so that kind of first real startup, I had a few different ideas, but that's kind of the one where I really kind of went all in and said, like, I'm doing a startup now. It was called One Page. And the idea was that it was your business card in the cloud. So the concept was that you had a page online that you could access on the web or on mobile, and it would list all of your different social profiles and have your email and your phone number and things like that. So it's kind of like a digital business card. And so then you would be able to use that use the link to that page in your email signature, in your Twitter bio, and these kind of things. So kind of like an about.me.
Yeah, that's what I was imagining. Yeah.
Yeah. And those guys launched kind of partway through I was doing it.
How do you deal with that? I mean, I know, so I'm working on a product myself, and I'm constantly sweating bullets every day. Every day that I don't work on this project, I'm just, because I know, like inside, I love my idea, so
Yeah.
I'm just sweating bullets. I mean, I guess the best thing to do is just get your idea out there as soon as possible and not worry about it.
Yeah, I think it can be really difficult, but it's also very deceiving to see other guys, because I think most of the time they're just at the same stage, and maybe they have a few advantages, like even with Buffer, Flowtown, Dan Martell, those guys launched timely, and like I was like, whoa, like, and that was at the same time that we kind of started, and they had like a really well established blog, and I know they had like 5 times as many users as us in like the earliest days. And so that's like, it can really affect you. But I think the key thing to remember is that they're also just getting started with the idea, and like neither of you have it figured out. So like you don't want to like look too much.
Right. Yeah, I guess you're right. The more important thing is to validate your idea, right? Like pivot as fast as you can to really find that niche that you're going.
Exactly. Yeah. Figure out how to make the idea work for yourself, and like don't try and look too much what other people are doing, because you've probably not figured it out yourself, and you need to like really focus on the users and making something that actually solves a problem for them.
Right. So you just mentioned you guys had a pretty decent blog prior to Buffer. But was it, or you had like an inbound marketing strategy basically?
Yeah, so Flowtown had a really good blog.
Okay, sorry.
We started from scratch, so that's kind of one of the reasons it was so like frightening for us that they launched it. We were like, oh wow, it's a similar idea, and they've got this really well established blog, and we're starting from scratch, so that was pretty hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, to explain the first customer, I had this previous idea, and the short story is that basically I spent a year and a half on that idea, fully invested in it. And
what does that mean, fully invested? Like, how were you living? You know what I mean? Like, because that's the thing, like somebody might have a safe job and they have this idea, but like, how do you make that leap? You have family, you have friends, like, what do you do?
Yeah, so me and my co-founder at the time, we found like a really cheap apartment. We lived together, and like I basically worked the minimum I could work, and lived as frugally as possible so that I could spend as much time as possible on the
like a part-time job, or just web design?
Just web design for clients. I actually kind of limited that as much as I could. I often tried to work for other people that had clients, so that I could so that I didn't end up with like a client base.
Right, the burden of that. Yeah.
Actually a big struggle, because I hadn't made a startup work, and at the same time I was kind of not building up my reputation as a freelance web developer as well. And I had like friends that had just decided that that's what they're going to do, and they built up like a web design agency, and they had like staff and things, and that was quite hard to see them like having that success, where I thought like, if I wanted to do that, I probably could have like made that happen and had some success there. It's like a little bit more straightforward. Like there's people that need websites. It's harder with a product. So that was a tough kind of situation to say like, okay, I'm gonna like deliberately limit the growth of that like business in a way, and just try and work through other people so that I didn't have clients and things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's how I did it. And essentially I managed to, most of the time I was only working 2 or 3 days for other people. So I would work, and I would work the weekends like on one page. So, and then at times, like I said, I kind of had saved some funds, and I worked full time for like quite a number of months. And we also got a small business grant, like a government grant, that allowed us to kind of work for 6 months solid without me doing anything else.
Nice.
But yeah, the key mistake we made with one page was that like essentially kept building feature after feature, and building things that I thought would be useful for me, and not really talking to enough people and figuring out whether it was actually a problem that people had. And it ended up with kind of this thing that some people signed up, some people used it, some people put it in their used the link in their Twitter bio and found it useful a little bit, but it like didn't really go beyond that like level of solving a real pain. Mm-hmm. that would allow me to get the traction that it would need. And it was also so I was in the UK and I kind of taking a lot of inspiration from like Silicon Valley, reading the blogs out here, TechBunch and things, and I think I took the grow big fast kind of approach and keep the product free. You don't want to limit how many people could sign up and things, and figure out revenue later. So I didn't really have like a business model, and I think that was a big mistake, especially in the UK, and especially who I was at that time, like the experience I had and like the stage I was at with my life, like that was not the right thing, not the right way to approach like doing a startup for me.
Right.
So, and I think so that was a key learning I took then to Buffer was like firstly validate the idea without trying to do as little code as possible to validate the idea. And then the other one was like just charge from day one. Like I kind of dismissed the idea of, so doing one page, I spoke to a couple of investors, but just didn't have any success because I didn't have enough traction. I didn't have any
revenue,
like track record or revenue or anything. So with Buffer, I started it with the mindset that I'm not going to get investment. I have to, if I want to work on this full time and not continue to do web design work for other people, which was that was my first goal. Then I knew that in order to do that, I would have to generate revenue from the product, and just to the level where then I could drop the other work. So
yeah, no, and that's hard. I mean, you have to be willing to go through those experiences though that you had first, and not give up.
Yeah,
because that could have been terrifying. You're like, I've been working on this one page thing for a year and a half.
Yeah,
and then you kind of realize like it's not going to work.
Yeah, and it's tough as well because one page had like at that point had about 8,000 users, which is like not huge, but it was enough that
that's significant for a product that you built on your own.
Yeah, it was tempting to try and work with that user base, but that was kind of
but at the same time, I mean, I know like the product I've built allowed me to build what I'm building now. So it's just you got to keep going.
Yeah, it's a stepping stone. I wouldn't have been able to launch Buffer in the way I had.
So how important do you think bootstrapping really is to like you said, day one we're going to make money? I know there's different ways to go, but having experienced it yourself, and you kind of explained that. But do you really think there's true value in compared to maybe not going down that route, just kind of building a more free, fast-growing idea?
Yeah, I think the way I'd see it is that the free, fast-growing idea is just a lot more risky. So it could work and it could go really well. But I feel like, especially as a first-time founder, which actually most people are who are working on a startup, that's one thing I've like reflected on and kind of. So my belief is that the free, fast-growing ideas are the easiest for us to like as humans to have inspiration for, because it's like a lot of times it's these social ideas, and we spend a lot of time like socializing or being on these platforms. So a lot of times those are the first kind of ideas that we have, not necessarily the ones that are like solving a pain point that then you charge for.
Yep.
But actually, like as a first-time founder, I think it's really hard to get to raise funding, which you kind of need funding for those free, fast-growing ideas. So unless you like hit upon something that grows so fast, so quickly that then you have enough traction to raise funding, and that's where I think like as a first-time founder, really traction is the card you have in your hand, like to be able to raise funding. And so you need to get that traction, right? So I think that's where I think like charging from day one, bootstrapping and trying to solve a pain point is a lot of times a much better way to go, because then you can have revenues, you can drop your work and things. Whereas if you have, you need something that grows so fast that then you can raise funding, because if it grows a little bit, then it's like tempting to keep trying to go with it. But then you've got to like, how do you live by? How do you get by? So then you have to work on the side and things, and that's really hard.
Yeah, no, that's awesome advice. It's how did you go and decide what to charge, and how you were like? Did you have multiple ideas for Buffer on how you were going to charge people? Because I mean, the service itself is, I mean, you have a free, like using it for free is actually just fine. So how do you get people to actually pay?
Yeah, so originally the limits it was a lot more limited, the free plan, and the first price point was $5 a month. And also the first version of the product was really, really minimal. So it was only for Twitter. There was no analytics. There was no mobile apps. There was hardly anything, and you could only connect one Twitter account. So essentially, like the only limit was on the number of tweets in your queue, and it was really limited. It was only like 5 in your queue, and then you'd have to upgrade. So I think the thing that helped to get like the first customer was to make it really binary. Either it's going to work or it's not going to work. So like I think that's one thing when someone's building out like a minimum viable product, and it's like really pay attention to that minimum part, because I think that's where if you build 5 different features and then you launch and that's your MVP, then you don't really, even if it works, you don't know which of those 5 features is like working to like that's valuable for people. And if it doesn't work, then that's also, you don't know which 5, and you get tempted to kind of try and improve all of them, and that you can get into the long process. Whereas if you can really focus on that minimal aspect and just kind of launch with like one feature, it just does one thing, then you kind of find out pretty quickly, like it works or it doesn't. People find it useful enough or they don't. So I kind of went through this process, and I had one of the things that worked really well with Buffer is that I had like a 2-month period before the first version of the working product was like live and launched. And during that time, I did a couple of different landing pages where it was like the landing page for the actual product, but the product didn't exist yet. And people could like try and sign up, and then I would like collect their emails. So basically it was like a landing page, and you click sign up, and then it would say, oh, sorry, we're not quite ready yet. Put your email here, and then we'll let you know when it's ready. And that helped me to really validate whether this was something people would want to use. And then eventually so I kind of got some validation there and had a lot of conversations via email, did some customer development there. And then when it came to the first version of the product, I also like really tried to be disciplined and keep it really minimal. And I think that's kind of that's what made it work.
Awesome. What did I lose you? I think I may have lost you. Oh, we're back. All right.
Is it good?
Yeah, we're good.
Cool.
I think one thing that's hard with the MVP is that, especially passionate people about their ideas, or just you get excited, right? And so you want to make it the best you can. So saying MVP is really hard. It's a really hard thing. I mean, that's actually that's the true gift of an entrepreneur, the person that can figure that out, right? So, there's design, there's features, the tech, the scaling, blah, blah, blah. All these things get in your head, like how do you really just focus? Like, how do you decide on how to do that?
Yeah, I think the key is like, I was lucky. I went through one page and I did all these things. I thought too much about scaling too soon. I kept adding features that I thought was good and that I hadn't really validated. And so I was at the point where I basically spent 1.5 years and I felt, oh, like that didn't work. I really need to change things and just do it completely differently. So
you felt like you're being smart doing all these things, but in reality, you just kind of realized it didn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think, and the interesting thing is, I think a lot of times this stuff almost goes against human nature, against like common sense in a way of what we think that we should be doing. Mm-hmm. So I think really to try and like to be successful as a founder and following like the lean startup methodologies, I think you almost have to like forget your mind in a way. Like you have to like forget the common sense, forget your like intuition of things, and just assume like that, like not in a pessimistic way, but kind of assume that things might not work and kind of test everything.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I did. Like when I first had the idea for Buffer, and because of the experience with one page, my first thought was, okay, this is a cool idea. I think it will really help me personally, because it did come through like a personal need. But the first thing I did was to then say to myself, like, okay, if this time around I want it to be more than a hobby, I really have to figure out whether other people also find this like useful and is a pain point for other people as well. And that's where you just have to put everything aside and say like, okay, how do I test that other people would like also need this?
Right. Yeah. It's a challenge to really give up on all the things that you think are great about yourself. I think so many founders are, or just people that are trying to be entrepreneurs, like, hey, I'm smart. I know how to design. I know how to build websites. I'm going to make it look good and work great and all this stuff. But then the true magic, like you just revealed, is that you don't do that. You just do the bare minimum, and you just go,
Yeah.
do it. Yeah.
I think the key is that lean startup is all about learning, and it's easy to forget that. And
Yep.
so I think when you think about making it look nice and all these things, like if you actually stop and say, okay, what does making it look nice help me learn? Then it doesn't really help you learn that much.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, then when you really think about, okay, how do I learn whether someone will will sign up to this? And that's where I put out a landing page with a sign up button to see if people would sign up to it without building the product. And then I said to myself, how do I learn whether people would pay for this? And so then I changed the landing page so that it had a pricing page, and they had to actually pick a pricing plan like before signing up, but the product still didn't exist. So that's where I think that's what really helped me, is to think like, okay, what do I need to learn for this to be successful in the way that I want it to be? And then like really think hard, like what do I really need in order to just like learn that thing.
Right. Do you think your landing page tests, or like, your validations there, I mean, even getting people to visit your landing page is a challenge, right? So did you have social features, or do you think your idea was just it validated itself so traffic grew on its own organically?
That's a good one. I was kind of lucky the whole time I was doing one page, like I started pretty early with this like philosophy of being transparent about everything and sharing my progress.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole time I was doing one page, I was using Twitter and kind of building my network. I also did a few events for startups in the UK, kind of gathering people together. And so by the time I started Buffer, I had 1,700 followers on Twitter, which was enough to just and then I definitely got lucky because the product itself, like the target audience was Twitter users, right? So like, where else am I gonna even like go to try and drive traffic? So yeah, I basically tweeted my landing page and got traffic that way. So, but I think overall, like I've spoken to other people about this problem of like driving traffic. I think a couple of interesting things. First one is that you actually don't need that much traffic. So I've always said like, the reason I collected emails and tried to validate it that way, so I had like the landing page and then you had to put your email in, was like then I would have conversations. And I think like this qualitative feedback of actually like talking, getting on a Skype call, having a conversation about the problem area that you're trying to like work in, is really undervalued. So a lot of times, especially lean startup, like the key area of it is metrics and things, and it's really easy to think metrics too early. Whereas like, when you have a landing page with just a tiny bit of traffic, like doing A/B tests or any kind of metric stuff is not going to really help you. But so yeah, I think the key thing is that actually you need a lot less traffic than you think if you actually make an effort to try and have a conversation with every like person that hits your page. So if you just collect emails, reach out to them, be friendly, and like be interested in them, and figure out a way to have a conversation and learn from them, then you don't need that much traffic. And once you like work with those people and figure out an actual pain point and solve that, then that's where like the traction happens, because
that is awesome.
You have like active usage of the product and people tell other people and things.
Yeah, it's almost like I can envision a landing page that it's not about the number, it's like how many people you've connected with.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like nobody's talking about that.
Yeah. That's where like I think there's these landing pages that encourage people to share, and you have these social elements and things, but they're all like almost always it's like you get to the landing page and there's already an email box there, right? And you put your email in, but like the people using those, it's just like often it's about collecting as many emails. It's like getting as many signups as you can, but you never reach out to them and learn from them.
Yeah, it's silly.
And you also you kind of, by having the email box right on the landing page, you sacrifice a huge like potential learning point of getting validation, which is like instead of an email, have like a sign up button, and then because like find out whether they would have even signed up. So yeah,
they have to put in that effort to click through, then that there's an interest.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I always try and say to people is actually, and it's tough, right? Like especially like I've been like, I'm a coder, I'm like an introvert person. I like, to actually push myself and have those conversations is hard, but that's what's really going to help you, I think.
No, yeah, I think just knowing the potential and the power behind it is way better I like the lean startup. There's a new movement, kind of like get out of the building kind of
Yeah.
thing. And yeah, I've been like a counselor at startup weekends, and
Yeah.
one of the strangest things to me is that people just don't talk to people. I'm like, just go ask the judges, like ask them what their problems are, or talk to them
Yeah.
and find out what's wrong with them. If you want to win this thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
solve
Right.
real problems. And it's hard. You're right. It's so hard to do.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about team building, because
Yeah.
you've been writing a little bit about this, and you have a distributed team.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned like you're an introvert yourself.
Yeah.
So how do you believe you build great teams? How is that something that you think you're trying to do, and like what is it that enables you to do that?
Yeah, I think a key thing for us is like figuring out what we want our culture to be and trying to like define that and then finding people that really align with that culture. And I think that's really helped us a lot. Um, yeah, and I think that is really the key thing. And in terms of the whole distributed team thing and like being introverted, like I think that's something where I guess a lot of times the culture comes from the founder and it's like almost a reflection of the personality of the founder. So me and my co-founder Leo is like, I think a lot of the culture that we've put together is like basically a reflection of our personalities. And so, yeah, like that's where the distributed team is really fun, and it makes a lot of sense because like in the journey of Buffer in the first couple of years, we did a lot of traveling, mainly because we couldn't get visas, so we couldn't stay in the US. And we decided to go traveling, but that became like a part of the DNA of Buffer, and so then we've like retained that and embraced it, and it's like become really, really valuable and useful for us to be a distributed team. So
Okay, cool. Um, specifically, you wrote recently about coaching, which I find really interesting.
yeah,
I think a lot of times we just hire people, and especially in startups, you want to hire talented people so you don't have to keep an eye on them all the time.
yeah.
But there is something important about just conversations, and I just was curious, why you decided to go down this road, like the coaching and the one-on-ones.
Yeah, it's cool. So when I was doing One Page, I used to meet with a friend who was also building a business, and like so actually outside. So it was kind of he was doing a different business, and we would meet once a week and discuss like what we'd achieved in the last week to try and push our businesses forward, and the challenges we had, and we would just spend a couple of hours once a week discussing these things and figuring out how can we push forward. And so I think that really influenced me then. So I kind of introduced that to my co-founder Leo. We started doing it, and then I thought, like we should do this in the whole team. And the other part was like for a long time I've been helping other founders as well. So I kind of set aside some time each week to do like office hours either on Skype or in person with other founders. And so like a combination of I was doing this like weekly session with Leo, and then I was helping other founders, and I would realize like, why am I helping other founders and not like having one-on-ones with everyone in the team? So I started doing these one-on-one sessions with everyone in the team, and now we're 13 people, so I've kind of had to think about how does that scale and how do we structure that. So now it's kind of I'll have one-on-one. I have one-on-ones with 4 people, and then like the team leads will have one-on-ones with everyone in their team, and it works really well, I think. And the key thing that's been great about one-on-ones that we're doing is that I read there's a blog post by Ben Horowitz, and he talked about how to do a one-on-one, and he said it needs to be the other person's meeting. It's like it's not my meeting. It's the team members meeting. So they set the agenda basically, and that's where we have this structure where we do 10 minutes for discussing achievements of the last week. We do 40 minutes for challenges that they have, and then 10 minutes for my like feedback or discussion points. So kind of that's the ratio I think it needs to be, is like 50 minutes is they set the agenda, and 10 minutes like then I have maybe 1 or 2 things that I want to mention.
Yeah, very cool. I like that you put the achievements first, because I think employees a lot of time they work hard on things that maybe they don't feel like it's understood by their founders or something.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. And I sometimes like think of achievements and just try and mention them as well. 'Cause I think a lot of times people, and doing this regularly has helped a lot. Is I think it's easy to just get into the grind and just work a lot. And
Well, that's what I was going to say is, you know, you do a lot of grunt work in startups. You know,
yeah,
not everything's fun. I mean, the fun part is seeing the idea come to life. But
yeah,
day in and day out, you're going to be doing a lot of grunt stuff.
yeah,
So, but
exactly.
you want it to be valuable. You know, you want to know that what you're doing matters.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to just stop and reflect and and celebrate the achievements you have, like the stuff that you are getting done. I think that helps to create just a much more like positive
Yeah, it
environment.
keeps the fire alive, the passion, and all that.
Yeah.
That's true. So we're almost out of time, unfortunately.
Okay. Goes fast.
It goes quick. Yeah, man, this was a great conversation. I have kind of two things. They're just real silly. One is, are there any ideas that you have that you wish you had time to execute on? Do you keep a journal of stuff, or are you just so busy right now that it just isn't even in your mind?
Good one. I've had one or two from time to time, but honestly, I don't really see myself as like an ideas guy. I feel like, so when I had the idea for Buffer, I think there's a way you can work on trying to have ideas, which is to really like heighten your awareness of everything that you're doing. And that's basically how I had the idea for Buffer, is that I was using Twitter a lot. I was sharing blog posts and quotes, and I found that they did really well. They resonated with lots of people. I got retweets and things. So that's when, you know, I was in this period of time where I knew that one page wasn't really working out, and I wanted to, you know, try out one or two other things on the side. And that's where I decided, you know, I need to heighten my awareness of everything that I'm doing and see if there's any little problems that could be solved. And that's where like I was posting these kind of tweets a lot, and I thought like there must be an easy way that this could be done. So yeah, but in general, like I don't tend to have a lot of like other ideas all the time. I know other founders do. I'm definitely, and my previous co-founder with one page, he was like that. And he would just write down and have like a huge list. And yeah, for me, not
No,
so
but
much.
I think your advice though is really good, of like just being cognizant. It's hard to do, you know, like so many of us just like the fact that you can go like months without even thinking about your life, to me sometimes scares me.
Yeah,
You know, it's true, but I think you're right. Like the true power is just like realizing what are you doing every day that,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
in this
yeah.
moment.
Try and reflect a little. Yeah.
Very cool. And then just lastly, like, is there any advice? I mean, I guess you've talked a lot about this, but is there any advice you would give somebody who has an idea that they want to make a reality?
Yeah, definitely just don't delay, especially if you know, if you don't have a technical co-founder or any of these kind of things. I think like that's something I often tell people, you know, try and advise is like just get started and build as much traction as you can. Maybe like put together like a Woohoo form or whatever, or use WordPress or something, like if you can't code or whatever it is. But just like, yeah, if you have an idea, just work on it and just try and do as much as you can, learn as much as you can, keep changing it all the time, and just try and like get that traction. Because I think, you know, if you can find something that does start to work, then like it's a lot of fun and you learn a lot very fast. That's where I think really focus on the learning of like, is this working? Are people staying active? Like if they sign up, are they still hanging around 2, 3 weeks later and using the product? Because I spent a year and a half on one page, and if I compare that year and a half to like the first year and a half of Buffer, like the amount I learned is like just crazy. So yeah, that would be my advice. Just like get to work and focus on the learning.
Cool. Very cool. Well, Joel, thank you for taking the time. It was a blast talking with you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Corey.
Cool. We'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, take care. Are you a reality maker? Know somebody that is, or want to sponsor this show? Visit my website, corygwen.com, to learn more.